All right, so Texas Monthly Magazine. Jody, are you a big fan of Texas Monthly Magazine?
No, I can't say I am.
Okay, well, they came out with their list of the best and worst legislators of 2017. And no area, like no Lubbock area representative made the list of the best. Nobody made the list of the best out here. Instead, you have names like Byron Cook, Sarah Davis, Dan Huberty, Joan Huffman makes the list. Representative Joe Moody, Democrat out of El Paso, makes the best list. Senator Robert Nichols out of Jacksonville makes the list as one of the best. Chris Patty of Marshall makes the list. And Ford Price, well, I guess you could call him area. He's Amarillo Republican, Ford Price, making the list of the best. And Matt Schaefer as well, out of Tyler, making the list. That wraps up the Republican names there. The worst. You know who's on the list as one of the worst? Senator Charles Perry. According to Texas Monthly, one of the worst senators. Well, just one of the worst lawmakers. This is what they wrote at the Texas Monthly. Charles Perry authored one of the most controversial measures of the session, the bill to ban sanctuary cities, but that's not why he made the worst list. Rather, it was his duplicity on several high-profile bills backed by Dan Patrick. See, Texas Monthly is they've continuing this little war on Charles Perry and other Republicans as well because they vote in a conservative way, and they don't like that. Texas Monthly, they don't like it. When you vote in a conservative way, they really get upset. And now you're aligning yourself with Dan Patrick. They really don't like it. They're really upset because what the folks at Texas Monthly don't understand is that the same people who voted for Charles Perry, a lot of them voted for Dan Patrick as well. And they can't make that connection in their mind. It's really hard for them to go, I wonder if the same people who voted for Charles Perry also voted for Dan Patrick. And the answer is yes. Maybe not every single one, but I'm going to say 98% of the people who voted for Charles Perry voted for Dan Patrick in the last election. And I'm going to say this. The people who are going to vote for Charles Perry again will probably vote for Dan Patrick again over whoever his Democratic opponent may be. But we'll go ahead and continue on with the Texas Monthly piece here. Take his bait and switch on Senate Bill 2, for example. The measure was pitched by Patrick as a property tax reform, but it would have severely restricted local government's ability to raise and spend revenue. You know who also likes Senate Bill 2? That would be the governor of the great state of Texas, Greg Abbott. You know who also likes SB 2? A lot of voters. A lot of Republican voters. You know who doesn't like SB 2? Government officials. They don't like SB 2. It would have severely restricted local government's ability to raise and spend revenue. Okay. A 5% property tax increase and limited it to 5% before an election is called, according to the lefties at Texas Monthly, is severely restricting the government's ability to raise and spend revenue, also known as taxpayer money. Now, I would understand if they said, okay, you can only have a 1% increase in property taxes. That's pretty severe. To say that you have to have an election if you go over 1%. 5%, when we've had city council members here on the show. We had Councilwoman Karen Gibson here on the show. City of Lubbock would never hit 5%. No. Don't think so. Anyway, back to this. Back to the story here. It would have severely restricted local government's ability to raise and spend revenue. The bill was opposed by the mayor of Lubbock. which I don't know if that's a good thing for Dan Pope to be called out in this story for, but okay. The mayor of Lubbock, 2 local county commissioners, and the county judge of San Angelo. No. Not a total of 4 people listed in this story. All officials in Perry's district. He was a profile in courage while speaking against the bill on the Senate floor, calling it an assault on their ability to govern on a local level. Then he voted for it. He also said a few other things as well, but I guess if you can take one sentence out of everything Perry said, you can. On a critical roll call vote, bill passed by a single vote at Perry's. Measure died later in the House, but that doesn't excuse his actions. That's right, Charles Perry. Doesn't excuse your actions of calling for an election when you automatically go over a certain percentage. How dare you shine the spotlight on government officials? They don't like that at all. Just wrong. Shouldn't be doing something like that. Oh, by the way, 77%, according to the Texas Tribune, 77% of Texas voters approve of SB 2. But Texas Monthly says this is why Charles Perry is one of the worst lawmakers. Texas Monthly also wrote, he also supported the controversial private school voucher proposal, another bill close to Patrick's heart, though opposed by the Lubbock School Board and most rural Texans, but not before offering an amendment to carve out his and other rural districts from the plan. Okay, so Charles Perry is bad because he supported vouchers, which, by the way, is part of the Republican Party platform. You know, school choice, Republicans have been for school choice for a long time now. This isn't breaking news to anybody except for the lefties who write at Texas Monthly. They don't like it. They don't understand that conservatives have been pushing for school choice for a long time. And so they're shocked here that Charles Perry, who came on this show earlier this week on Monday and said, I've got, half the district is rural, half the district is like Lubbock. It's not rural. It's half and half. And if you were to go through and do a poll, I can pretty much guarantee you that voters in Charles Perry's district, it's not half and half who support some form of school choice. I'd be willing to bet that a vast majority would support school choice of some form. Now, I know you have those who think if you have school choice, then all of a sudden the little schools, the schools in the rural areas are going to shut down and the cities are going to close down and everybody's going to go home. Even though most people in their rural areas actually love their schools, they would not be taking their kids out. You know who is moving their kids to the rural schools? People in the bigger cities. There's a reason for that. But those who argue against school choice because of the rural areas, they don't tell you that. What they want you to believe is that all the school districts will close up shop and that there won't be any choice for those kids. They'll have to be bused into Lubbock or somewhere else. That all those tiny rural areas will close up and no one will be left. Now, even though Perry did offer out this carve-out, that doesn't satisfy the folks at Texas Monthly. They still think he's a horrible, horrible person because he went through and actually did the rural areas, in their opinion, a favor by cutting them out. But Charles Perry is smart enough to go, not only do I represent some rural areas, but I also represent some larger areas like Lubbock, Texas, and one day it may benefit them. There might be some parents in Lubbock ISD who go, a education savings account sounds pretty good where I can, take some of that money and put it towards my kids' education if they go to private school. That sounds pretty good. There might be some parents in Lubbock that actually like that. Texas Monthly wraps it up by saying, we hope next session Perry remembers that he's elected to represent his constituents and the people of Texas, not do the lieutenant governor's bidding. Last time I checked, the lieutenant governor was also elected by the people of Texas. Jody, am I right on that? Did the lieutenant governor win? Okay. And if, by the way, you believe Charles Perry is elected to also represent everyone in Texas, there are major areas of this state that are having problems with public schools and that would love to see school choice. And maybe that's why Perry supported it in some areas. To list Charles Perry as one of the worst lawmakers in the state? Come on, give me a break. Charles Perry has done good work. I don't agree with everything Charles Perry did. He voted for the texting while driving ban. I don't agree with Charles Perry on everything. But to say that he's one of the worst lawmakers in the state? Come on. What do you think? 770-5790. Toll free 1-800-687-0790. Want to hear from you. Do you think Charles Perry was one of the worst lawmakers in Texas? Or is this just garbage from Texas Monthly? You can let us know here on the phones and also online. Poll question at KFYO.com. What do you think about Charles Perry? Let us know. We'll be right back. Talking about Texas Monthly, naming State Senator Charles Perry as one of the worst legislators in Austin. And you can't convince me Texas Monthly didn't look at his sponsorship of the Sanctuary Cities ban and didn't take that into account. Right? I mean, the Texas Monthly, they're saying, we didn't consider that. Bull. You did too. Texas Monthly has always been against the Sanctuary Cities ban. Let's go to the phones, see what some of you have to say about Charles Perry. And Steve, you're on KFYO.
Good morning, Chad.
Hey, what's going on?
Into your sidekick, Jody. I'm going to say this first and go ahead and get it out on the air. I'm not feeling the love. I predicted this Osloff down to the exact.
You're not even getting his name right.
I don't care what his name is. He's a freak. So, I mean, bottom line, he couldn't even vote in his own election because he doesn't even live in the stinking district.
You know, I am a little bit disappointed he didn't lose by just one vote.
Well,
that would have been beautiful.
Well, that's true, but then they would have protested and they'd have brought every.
True.
Anyway, that would just brought up another conspiracy. So, it just goes to prove that money can buy stupid.
Yeah.
There, I said it.
All right.
Anyway, I actually went out and bought 3 copies of the Texas Monthly because I needed something extra since I'm not taking the newspaper anymore to line the rabbit cage.
Oh,
so
that's nice.
Perfect. Even though the rabbits now are actually trying to not even put their feet down on the paper now. I'm going to have to probably change to something else.
Even the rabbits are like, I don't know. Come on.
Well, I
don't want to put our feet on that.
Well, they're trying to go to the bathroom and they're already standing in the bathroom. So
you don't believe that Texas State Senator Charles Perry is one of the worst lawmakers in the state of Texas?
Absolutely not. What I do believe is virtually any rag publication that comes out of the city of Austin, our illustrious state capital, even though there's a lot of good things there, they are just dragging us down the tube. And everybody says, oh, keep Austin weird. There's no problem with that. It'll always be weird. What are you talking about? No chance of that changing. But anyway, Chad, I really do need to feel the love and hear a little bit of, I'm 100%. So anyway,
Steve,
I'm just glad.
Congratulations. Congratulations on your pick there. Congratulations.
Thank you, Chad.
Have a good one.
Yes, sir. Awesome. Thanks, sir.
Yeah. Now, I'm not going to, listen, Texas Monthly, I don't think they're completely off on all of their selections here, but some of these are head scratchers. They even list Lois Kolkhorst as one of the worst lawmakers. Now, she, of course, authored the bathroom bill. And Texas Monthly again says, no, it just had nothing to do with the bathroom bill. Okay. But they don't really list anything else. They go through and then they say, oh, yeah, she also agreed with Dan Patrick. So this is just, it's anti-Dan Patrick deal. And that's really what the Texas Monthly thing is that if you agreed with Dan Patrick on a couple of these items, then all of a sudden that you're a horrible, horrible lawmaker. Even though what Texas Monthly doesn't understand is that Dan Patrick is going, he won the statewide election. People voted for Dan Patrick in this state. Texas Monthly, they had rather, and I'm not going to go on a huge rant about this, but what they don't understand is that Texans elected who? They elected Greg Abbott and they elected Dan Patrick. Greg Abbott and Dan Patrick are more in line with each other going into the special session than somebody else in leadership named Joe Strauss. And Texas Monthly would rather every single lawmaker be aligned with Joe Strauss than they're aligned with the governor or lieutenant governor. And guess who's not elected by everyone in the state? That would be Joe Strauss. Though I'm sure Texas Monthly would love you to think that.